Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 184 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think can be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to be continuing our conversation of becoming a millionaire, of building wealth over the long term, and today specifically, we are going to talk about your millionaire number or your retirement number, the money that you are going to need in retirement. We want to know how much. That's a big deal, right? We talked earlier this week about whether or not $1 million is enough to retire on. Well, we're actually going to jump in today and go, well, how do you determine how much you need to retire on? And yes, for most of you, it is over $1 million. But how do we come to that determination? What comes into that calculation and that decision-making process? And how can we best plan for our long-term financial future? All that and more will be answered in today's episode. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, then be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to create a financial plan that is specific to you and your family's needs and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just go to my website, www.mnowithdylan.com, click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. So for most, the thought of saving for retirement is daunting. The thought of determining how much money you're going to need for retirement is daunting. And I want to make that simpler for you. And I want to walk you through the steps that you are going to have to take, regardless of where you're at in your financial life, the steps that you must take in order to determine what you need in retirement, and then back your way into, well, then how much do I need to save? How much do I need to put away? How much do I need to invest month after month or week after week or whatever in order to get to the retirement number that I'm shooting for? And this is not a simple task, right? It's not really simple where you're just saying, oh, it's very straightforward and I can tell you exactly what you need, exactly when, and exactly, there is very little exact here. But we can make some determinations based on estimates of our own as to what you will need. And then if you can assume some type of rate of return into the future, then you can estimate how much money you can be investing from now until whenever you want to retire to meet that particular retirement goal. So this is not a perfect deal. It's not a perfect thing, but it is something that is going to help you to better plan your financial life. And if nothing else, you'll have a goal to shoot for. And hopefully you can shoot through this goal, right? We're not just shooting to a particular retirement number, but we want to shoot to and through that retirement number because you never know how much money you may end up needing. And that's not to say that you should collect everything for retirement or put away everything for retirement. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you outpace what you thought you'd need, then you're probably going to be okay. But if you just barely meet it, or if you don't quite meet it and you still retire, then that is asking for some issues potentially in the future. So we have to understand what's going to get us to this point where we can retire. And it really starts in one place and one place only. And that is, you have to have a financial plan. Okay. This is really the basis of what I teach throughout the course of the show. I give you the financial action plan. I give you a plan that you can work, that you can walk down the particular parts, the particular steps, and allow yourself to build a financial life that is going to be successful over the long term and is going to be beneficial to you over the long term. And so the basis of the show, yes, is the plan. But if you do not have a plan, right, then trying to hit a particular retirement number, trying to retire by a particular point and do it comfortably is going to be very difficult. It's really going to be shooting from the hip. You're not going to have much control over when you meet the goal that you have set in your mind. You're also going to lose time, right? The longer you go without a plan, you're going to lose time that you have to course correct and get yourself to a goal that you want to get to over the long term. So we must start early with a plan, right? I've talked about starting early with investing. Well, more than that, we need to start early with having a plan. Have a plan for what you want to do with your money and how you want to get to wherever you want to get to. And undoubtedly, your plan can and will change over time, right? Maybe you will want new things for yourself and your family as you move forward. Maybe you will have new aspirations. You'll have a new job. You'll have a new ability to save and put money away. And so you might want to do extra things with money that you can save later on. You may be able to do a multitude of things throughout the course of your life that just slightly course corrects that plan until you do finally get to retirement. But that is okay. And it's okay. And it's what you need to be doing to very regularly look over your plan, see if you're still on track, and correct yourself to be on track to where you want to get to over the long term. So I'm not telling you that you constantly have to just be staring at a roadmap financially. But what I am saying is that if you don't have a roadmap, it's going to be very difficult to get to wherever you want to get to. Okay. And especially it's going to be difficult to get to any retirement number that you want to get to. It's going to be difficult to get to any millionaire status that you want to get to. And that's where I'm trying to get you to go, right? I'm trying to get you to this place of financial freedom where you are out of debt, you have money saved for emergencies, you have your house paid off, you can retire with dignity and have plenty of money to comfortably retire and hopefully retire as a millionaire in the long term. Now, the good thing also about having a plan is that even before you start working on a specific part of the plan, you know what's coming and you can look forward to the steps that you are going to have to take in order to get to where you want to be over the long term. There are no surprises if there is a plan. Yes, life can throw surprises and things can occur that, again, cause you to course correct. But that doesn't mean that your plan must change in a crazy way. That doesn't mean that you can't live the dreams that you want to live. In most cases, they are slight adjustments that you may have to make to a plan and not anything absolutely huge. So you need to take advantage of, if not the financial action plan, some other type of financial plan that is working to get you out of debt, to have you saving some money and investing for the long term and building wealth so that you can live financially free. But the question and the idea of today's episode is not necessarily just about a financial plan, although that is how you get to the point that we are talking about here, right? Because we're talking about getting to a specific retirement number. But the question is, how do you get there? Well, you get there via a financial plan and having specific goals throughout the course of that plan. But how do you determine what that number is? And how do you determine how you're going to get to that number, right? All this should go within your financial plan. But if you don't have a plan in the first place, that's where you need to start. So let us step into this place where we're talking about how much do I need? How much do I need to retire? And what is going to change that need over the long term? So look, when you begin investing for retirement, you likely don't have a clue what the long-term outlook of what you're going to need later on is going to be. Now, you can look backwards, right? And you can see how the cost of living has changed over time. You can see how investments have grown over time. You can see, what types of things you may need and how much money you may need as you move forward based on what inflation has been, right? You can look backwards, but you really don't know exactly what the future holds. So again, this is not a perfect process. This is not a perfect thing. But especially as you move closer to retirement, and that's why it's so important to make these course corrections in your financial plan. As you move closer to retirement, it's going to get clearer and clearer what you are going to need. And so you can make adjustments as you move closer. But if you are young and you are trying, 20s, 30s, and you are trying to save for retirement, invest for retirement, something that you need to understand is that you need to be putting away as much money as you can now, because that money can really compound and grow for you over the long term. And you can invest a lot less in dollar amount than your 40 and 50-year-old contemporaries and get to larger and larger net worth. So make sure that you are actively saving and hopefully aggressively saving and investing for your retirement, okay? That is going to allow you to hit any retirement number that you want to get to, okay? So yes, it's going to be difficult for you to determine what your expenses are going to be in retirement and what your income is going to be in retirement. But if you know that, hey, I can invest this much for this long, making a market-based rate of return over the long term and have $4, $5, $6 million to live on in retirement, I mean, that's probably going to be okay for you, right? As long as you live a modest lifestyle. But again, that doesn't work for everybody. Again, we have to course correct. We have to understand what our lifestyle looks like. We have to understand what our income looks like. Okay. So there is a problem, right? There's a problem with looking at your current income and basing your retirement needs on your current income. The rule of thumb of replacing between 70 to 85% of your pre-retirement income is perfectly fine if you're really close to retirement. But if you're in your 20s or 30s, your income is likely on an upward trajectory, right? You're likely going to make more money over time. And so having 70 or 80% of your 20 or 30-year-old salary invested is not as big a task as having money invested later on. So it's a different goalpost, right? Your income is likely reflecting your entry or intermediate level position within a given career. If you're in the middle of your career, though, and you've decided to make a career change, you may also temporarily experience lower pay that affects your retirement savings formula as well, right? So determining what your needs are going to be, what your income is going to be, what income you are going to be used to by the time you retire, the earlier it is, the more difficult it is going to be to determine what that value is. So one of the most important things that you can do as you move into determining what your retirement number is going to be over the long term is focusing on your spending and your lifestyle and not your income, right? Because your income can vary widely, right? You can do something and create a business and really make a huge income. But if you can still live a modest lifestyle, or if you still do live a modest lifestyle, then just because you had this crazy income doesn't mean that you're going to have to replace this crazy income when it comes to retirement, right? You need to focus on what your expenses are, and you need to focus on how your expenses change over time. This is why it is very, very important from early on to budget and to catalog those budgets, right? Because if you begin in your 20s and you're living on your own, or you're married, or you've got your own place, you've got your own bills, you've got all these different types of things, and you can budget, right? And budgeting is the first part of the financial action plan. So again, going back to needing a financial plan, it is very, very important. If you can go ahead and budget, right, then you can look at those budgets over time and see how the cost of living has changed for you over time and for your family over time. And you can see how that may impact you into the future, and you can better project what is going to happen in retirement. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics saw a 1.5% decrease in income and a 4.8% increase in expenditures in their 2018 Consumer Report. Among different categories, personal insurance and pension expenditures represented the largest percentage increase with a 7.8% rise, followed by a 2.5% rise in food expenditures. The only decrease among the largest categories was a 5.6% drop in educational spending. So your spending in retirement will most likely be different than your spending today, right? You're going to spend money on different things. And not only are you going to spend money on different things, you're going to spend different amounts of money in different places, right? Right now, you may be perfectly healthy and not spending much on healthcare or, the ability to take care of yourself. But as you retire, that may become a very real need for you and your spouse, or you and those who are taking care of you. So you have to take that into account. In retirement, for example, you are likely to have different expenditures. For example, your mortgage is likely to be paid off, or at least in the financial action plan, I call for you to have your mortgage paid off by the time that you retire, right? And if you have your mortgage paid off, then that is going to significantly decrease your expenditures and decrease your need for income in retirement. So your spending is going to change in a great way, right? The healthcare need may increase and the spending on your home or your mortgage may decrease. And you have to see if those differences are going to balance themselves out, or if one is going to outweigh the other in one way or the other, right? You may have less expenditures and more income to do whatever you want to do with in retirement. And that's a very good problem to have, because that decreases your need to save more for retirement. Or you may have more expenditures because let's say your health was bad, or let's say the cost of living wherever you are living at, or your home health care, or something that is specific to you as you age is so high that it's going to hurt you, or maybe you have high drug costs, right? Again, health issues are a big deal as you age and as you are in retirement. It's things that you really don't worry as much about as you are working age in most cases, okay? So you will have other expenses that you do not currently have today. Out-of-pocket prescription and medical costs will be a bigger concern. You may want to outsource home-related tasks that you currently do yourself, such as cleaning, raking leaves, shoveling snow when you're in your 70s. You may also choose to travel more or use your retirement to explore hobbies that you couldn't pursue during your working years. And so this is going to really change how you spend your money. Now, all of this leads to this issue, right? Which is that while income is not a suitable basis for determining how much money you should have in retirement, right, expenses are not a perfect option either. However, in lieu of better alternatives, right, expenses may be the best benchmark for how large of a portfolio you should aim to create. Now, there are many things that you'll hear out there when they talk about how much money you need in retirement. And one of the big ones when you talk about like retirement withdrawal rates and things of the like is, the 4% rule, where, we take 4% of your retirement nest egg every single year, right? Because they say that's a reasonable amount of return that you should expect on an annual basis in retirement. And that is what you take off of your portfolio. I say that's probably not the best idea, right? That's probably not also going to be feasible for many of you. Because let's just say if you've lived your life on an $80,000 a year salary, right? And if you've lived your life on an $80,000 a year salary, and let's say you saved $1 million for your retirement, well, based on the 4% rule, annually, you are taking $40,000 off of the $1 million nest egg that you created. And that is assuming that there's no taxes, that you only take that $40,000, right? And that $40,000 is half of your $80,000 annual salary that you are used to. And if you don't have any other money that you can dip into or any other income that may be coming in for retirement, then that can be very, very problematic for you and your family. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the 4% rule, right? It can be viable for some people, but some people do have to try to earn a little bit more in retirement. And you shouldn't be sitting around the rest of your life being okay with earning 4%. Even though, yes, that is a rate of return that most people could earn in their sleep. It is not something that we should all just bank on, 4% is the absolute way to go. So even though it has been the way of, financial planners for many, many years, it does not necessarily mean that it should be the way of you as you lead towards your retirement goal. So in the simplest form, this is what I think you should do to determine what your retirement number should be. Okay, you really need to sit down, do a lot of detailed research, understand how the cost of living has changed over time and will change into the future potentially, right? Understand that your expenses are going to change into the future as well. Do a budget, right? Have this mock retirement budget and really go through each line and really understand what your expenses are going to be, right? Do a budget with no income, just the expenses, okay? And I would go top to bottom with all the expenses that you could potentially have and then see what that totals to, all right? Once you see what that totals to, then let's take that amount and let's grow it by the cost of living for 20 years, okay? Because most people are going to be retired for 20 years based on statistics, right? 20 years is a good long retirement, right? So I really want to make sure you have enough money saved up. So just take that expenses number and you'll have some inflation rate that you are going to add on to it. So multiply it by 1 plus that inflation rate and do it for 20 straight years, okay? Then see what that expenditure number is, okay? You take that amount, you multiply it out by 12, right? Because we want things on an annual basis to see how much annual income we are going to need in retirement. So you multiply that out by 12 and then take that number, right? That annual expenses number 20 years deep into retirement and divide it by a reasonable rate of return that you think you can earn on your investments in retirement and the rate of return that you expect to be trying to earn in retirement, right? Yes, most of us through our working lives, we're looking at, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% returns, maybe more than that, right? As reasonable returns over the long term. But in retirement, the rate of return that is required by investors decreases substantially because they are more concerned with capital preservation and not growth as much anymore. And so not being as worried about growth doesn't mean that you should have no growth, right? But it does mean that the rate of return assumption may decline, right? It means that the amount that you expect to make might not be as much as it was when you were working. And so come to some conservative estimate of what a rate of return you expect to earn in retirement is going to be, right? So let's say, just for instance, okay, let's say that you came to the realization that per year in retirement, you are going to spend $75,000, okay? So you're going to spend $75,000, and let's say that you expect to make 5% on your money annually in retirement, okay? So you'll take 75,000, divide by that 0.05, okay? And then what you'll be left with is the answer of $1.5 million, okay? Now, we're not quite done, okay? So I do want you to take this number and say, okay, based on my expenditures, this is what I need, okay? But let's say as you get closer to retirement and you start course correcting, you start making your adjustments, right? Let's say your work offers you a pension, right? You have a pension that you are going to receive, and you know what that pension amount is going to be, to a pretty close degree. You know exactly how much money you are going to bring in as far as that pension goes. Well, take that and multiply that by 12, right? If it's a fixed pension or if it, adjusts for the cost of living over time, multiply the lowest amount, again, because we want to do a conservative estimate, the lowest amount that it could be, multiply it out from a monthly number to an annual number, okay? And you can take that along with something like your Social Security, right? If you know what your Social Security is going to be, or any other streams of income that you may have, like off rental homes or anything else, any other streams of income that are not based on your retirement nest egg. And take those, multiply them out to annual income streams, and then take them away from that annual expenses, right? Because we know that that is part of our annual expenses that we don't have to worry about making up for with our nest egg. It will be taken care of by these other income streams. So let's say you had another $30,000 in other income streams, right? So you would take that $75,000 and you would subtract $30,000, right? So that would leave you with a need for $45,000 a year in retirement as far as your expenses went. So again, you would take that $45,000 and you would divide that $45,000 by 0.05, and that greatly diminishes the need that you would have in retirement. So it would take you from needing $1.5 million to only needing $900,000, right? This is a big difference. And in having this big difference, right, you can see that these are still both substantial amounts of money, right? To even create this $45,000 a year based on a 5% rate of return, you have to have $900,000 there in order to not have your principal run out, because that is the goal. The goal with your retirement number is that we have this number that we can create income off of every single year, every single month, whatever. We can create income off of that number, and yet we never dip into the principal, right? Because the problem is if you start eating into the principal, then your money's not going to last as long, right? And if you don't want to grow your money very much in retirement, you just want to keep it all in cash, then you can eat away at $900,000 quite quickly, okay? But we want to keep that money growing at a rate of return that we can just create income off of it, and that you can have the income that you need and not have to worry about eating into your principal over time. Now, even though that's the goal, right? And that's what your retirement number should be, your millionaire number, if it is over $1 million. And for most people, it will be over $1 million. So if that's what your retirement number is, right, then you need to go about determining, how do I get to that retirement number, okay? And again, to and through, hopefully, so we can have some conservative adjustment for, let's say, the cost of living, for the expenses that you might have in retirement, for the lack of other types of income. We want to be overly saving. We don't want to ever leave gaps in our saving just because we thought that it was going to be some number and it turned out to be more than that as far as our expenses went. So what you can do in order to get to whatever retirement number you have for yourself, what you can do is you can go to some financial calculators. I use EZ calculators. It's an app for Apple smartphones, right, for iPhones. And you could also go to Microsoft Excel and you can learn about the payment functions on each one of these, right? These time value of money calculators. And you can say, okay, if I need, let's say $1 million, right? $1 million in future value, right? That would be your future value. That's how much I need when I retire. If I need $1 million and I think I can make 8%, and you can plug 8% in as your rate of return, right? And let's say you had nothing saved now. So whatever the amount is that you currently have invested can be your present value, okay? Because you'll need these inputs in order to determine how much you need to invest on a monthly basis. And so you can put that amount in, and you would also look and you would say, okay, there's this payment button. Well, you click the payment button on the easy calculator, or you solve for the PMT function in Excel, and it can tell you how much you need to put away in order to get to the retirement number that you want to get to. Now, if you want to make it monthly, then take whatever rate of return it is, divide it by 12, and also take the number of periods, right, that you're going to have to enter as well, the number of years, and multiply that by 12, and enter those two things adjusted in that way, right? And that will give you the monthly amount that you need to put away in order to get to some retirement number, right? And that is very, very helpful. That's very, very important for you to do, right? And you can work through some of those time value of money issues. But the key here is have an idea, right? Have a general basis by which we are saving money to reach this goal, right? Don't just say, I'm just going to save this much just because, or invest this much just because. And don't just look at my rule of saying invest at least 15% for retirement and just say, okay, that's exactly what you should do. Yes, that's what you should do, and that will work for most people over the long term, right? But if you want to know exactly how much you need to invest to get to some exact point, then you can look that up as well, right? If your goal is just to become a millionaire, you can work that out and become a millionaire. I promise you, the earlier you start, it's not that difficult, okay? In the past 40 years, right? 40 years ago, if you would have just started investing about $150 a month, okay, and invested that from 1981 to today, you'd have over $1 million. $150 a month, we spend that on lesser things. We spend that on, cable and internet. We spend that on, eating out. We spend that on things that we do not need. So you could absolutely become a millionaire, and you can reach your long-term retirement number goals, but you must have a plan. You must follow the plan, and you must be able to come to some reasonable determination of what your expenses and income are going to be in retirement. And then you can determine, what is my retirement number going to be? So hopefully you can get there, right? And if you need any help getting there, and you need help determining what those numbers actually look like in reality, then I can help you do that. You can just go to my website and just have a financial coaching session with me. So you go to the Work with Dylan tab on my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. You click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you. And we can work towards helping you reach your retirement number over the long term. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave any feedback in the comments down below, and I will respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, then be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. So tune in tomorrow as I finish off this week talking about millionaires and retirement, and I talk about what the secrets of millionaires are. How do they become millionaires? What are their secrets? And I will share those with you tomorrow, and hopefully better educate you on how to build wealth over the long term. So thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.